Have you ever noticed how quickly anger shows up in your day? Sometimes it feels like it just happens to you, like you're walking around with emotional tripwires that anyone can accidentally step on. A rude comment, a delayed response, someone cutting you off in traffic, and suddenly your whole mood flips. One moment you're fine, the next you're tight-chested, frustrated, snapping back, wondering, why did I let that get to me? And before you know it, the same cycle repeats. Most people think that's normal. But here's the truth we rarely hear: it doesn't have to be. Because there is another way to live, one practiced for thousands of years by some of the wisest people who ever walked this earth. The Stoics. These men and women believed in strength, clarity, and emotional ownership. And they lived by a simple principle: your emotions belong to you. Not to the world, not to strangers, not to circumstances. Just you. Imagine going through life without being controlled by random disruptions. Imagine keeping your inner peace even when the outside world feels chaotic. Imagine not being pulled into every argument, every provocation, every misunderstanding. That's the Stoic way, and it begins with one powerful idea: anger is a choice, and so is peace. It might sound strange at first. Most of us grew up hearing things like, "They made me so mad. Look what you did, now I'm angry. You ruined my day." But what if that's not true? What if the world isn't pulling your strings, but you're handing those strings over without realizing it? Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and the Emperor of Rome, once wrote, "Read that again." Because it might be one of the most liberating sentences you'll ever hear. You may not control what happens around you, but you do control how you respond. You do control what you allow to settle inside your mind. And you do control the meaning you attach to every moment. Take a second and think about your day today. How many times did something small irritate you? How many times did someone else's words or tone shift the way you felt? How many times did your peace vanish because of something completely outside your control? Now imagine if the next time this happens, instead of reacting instantly, you pause. You take a breath. You give yourself space to choose, not from emotion, but from clarity. How different would your day feel? Here's something most people don't realize. Emotional control isn't about suppressing anger. It's not about pretending you're calm when you're boiling inside. It's about understanding your power, the power to respond instead of react. And that's exactly what this video is going to help you with. Because today, we're diving into 6 Stoic truths, 6 principles that can change the way you experience conflict, triggers, frustration, and emotional storms. These truths have helped people stay grounded in the middle of chaos for centuries. And they can do the same for you. Whether you've struggled with quick anger for years, whether you're tired of letting small things ruin your day, or whether you simply want to be someone who moves through life with calm confidence, these 6 truths will give you the tools to regain control. This isn't philosophy for scholars. This is practical wisdom for real people. People like you and me, people who want peace, strength, and clarity in a world that constantly tries to pull us in the opposite direction. So, as we begin, I want you to reflect on one simple question: who controls my emotions, me or the outside world? Because after today, my goal is for your answer to become crystal clear: you do. And you always have. Now, if you're ready to stop feeling tossed around by every rude comment, if you're ready to break the cycle of anger and regret, if you're ready to take back your inner stability, then stay with me. Let's begin this journey together, one Stoic truth at a time. Let me ask you something real for a moment. How many times in your life have you said, "You made me angry"? Probably more times than you can count. It's one of the most common beliefs. We carry this idea that other people, with their words or behavior, somehow control our emotions. A stranger's tone, a colleague's attitude, a friend's silence, and suddenly we feel triggered, offended, or disrespected. But here's the thing, that belief is not just wrong, it's dangerous. Because the moment you believe someone else makes you angry, you've already handed them your emotional remote control. You've given them permission to dictate how you feel. And that is exactly what the Stoics warned us about more than 2,000 years ago. No one creates your anger. You do. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said it with absolute clarity: it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Sit with that for a second. It's not the comment. It's how you interpret the comment. It's not the silence. It's the story you tell yourself about the silence. It's not the event. It's the meaning you attach to it. Think about two people facing the exact same situation. Let's say someone cuts them off in traffic. One person shrugs and moves on with their day. The other erupts, yelling at the windshield, heart pounding, chest tightening, jaw clenching. Two completely different reactions. Because the event was never the problem. The interpretation was. And if you've ever felt your breathing tighten, your chest heat up, or your jaw lock in anger, that didn't happen because of what actually happened. It happened because of the internal story your mind rushed to create. They disrespected me. They think I'm nothing. They did that on purpose. But here's the truth: your mind can create entire storms out of assumptions, projections, and misunderstandings, storms that have nothing to do with reality. Most conflicts don't come from malice. They come from misinterpretation. I want you to remember something: your brain is an incredible storyteller, but not always a truthful one. And when we don't slow down, we let that inner storyteller run wild. We react before we think. We judge before we understand. We burn bridges over narratives that may not even be real. This is why Stoics trained themselves to pause before reacting. Not because they were emotionless, but because they understood the danger of letting an unexamined story drive their behavior. They practiced watching an emotion rise like noticing a wave forming, without instantly letting it crash onto the shore. That pause, even if it's just one breath, gives you space to ask a question that can change everything. What else could this mean? Maybe that person wasn't attacking you. Maybe they were exhausted. Maybe they were stressed. Maybe they weren't ignoring you, they were overwhelmed. Maybe their message seemed sharp because they were rushing, not because they were angry. Maybe the situation wasn't personal at all. When you allow for other possibilities, anger loses its certainty. And when anger loses certainty, it loses power. This is why the Stoics believed that pain is optional. Not because life is perfect, far from it, but because the story that creates emotional pain is optional. You can rewrite the interpretation. You can question the assumptions. You can choose a calmer, clearer meaning. And that leads us to the core principle of this entire Stoic lesson. Ask: your interpretation is your choice, and your anger is your interpretation. Therefore, your anger is your choice to skrisk. That doesn't mean anger never shows up. Anger is natural. It's human. It's part of our wiring. But whether anger controls you or simply passes through you, that part is up to you. So the next time you feel triggered, the next time the heat rises in your chest, the next time you catch yourself saying, "Why did they make me so angry?" Breathe and ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? And is it the only one? Because if you can change the story, you can change the emotion. And if you can change the emotion, you can change your entire day. That's the first Stoic truth. And if you embrace it, even a little, your life will start to feel lighter, calmer, and far more in your control. Have you ever noticed how quickly a moment can pull you out of character? One comment, one tone, one inconvenience, and suddenly, you're reacting before you even realize what's happening. It's almost automatic, like your emotions hit play before your mind has a chance to catch up. But here's the truth most people completely overlook: between in every event and your reaction, there's a tiny moment, a space so small you almost miss it. And inside that space is your power. If you claim that space, you control yourself. But if you rush through it, you hand that control away. Most people react fast because it feels natural. Someone disrespects them, and the comeback is instant. Someone cuts in front of them, and the anger explodes immediately. Someone sends a cold message, and the frustration rises before they even finish reading it. But fast reactions come with a cost. You surrender your judgment to your emotions. When you react instantly, you're not responding from clarity, you're responding from instinct. And instinct is built for survival, not wisdom. That's why Stoics warn that quick reactions come from the animal mind, not the wise mind. It's the part of you that wants to defend, attack, and prove something right away. Think about it. When in your life has reacting too fast ever actually helped you? Has sending that angry text ever made the situation better? Has snapping back instantly ever made you feel proud afterward? Has an impulsive reaction ever left you feeling stronger, calmer, or more in control? Probably not. Because anger, ego, and impulse all love speed. The faster you react, the easier it is for those emotions to hijack the moment. But something powerful happens when you slow down. When you pause even just for a breath, you shift from the emotional mind to the deliberate mind. And that shift is where your strength lies. Slowing down is not weakness. Slowing down is strategy. It's like stepping back from a storm so it can't pull you in. It's like giving yourself a shield instead of charging forward unprotected. Imagine someone says something rude to you. Most people fire back instantly, but a Stoic pauses. They let the words hang in the air for a moment. They don't jump, don't bite, don't get pulled into the trap. And that pause, that silence, it throws the other person off balance because they expect instant fire. Instead, they get calm. They get reflection. They get someone who cannot be emotionally manipulated. The one who controls the pace controls the interaction. And when you slow the pace, suddenly you see things more clearly. You start asking yourself the questions that actually matter. Is this worth responding to? Is this really about me? Is this worth my peace? And let's be honest, most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the things that trigger you have nothing to do with you. They're just noise, other people's stress, insecurity, impatience, or bad days. But when you react fast, you absorb energy as if it belongs to you. When you react slowly, intentionally, you teach the world something powerful about you. My emotions are not up for grabs. You cannot pull me into your chaos. I choose my pace. I choose my peace. And people feel that. Even if they don't admit it, they sense the difference between someone who reacts fast and someone who responds with intention. The fast reactor is easy to provoke. The slow responder, that person is untouchable. Let me give you a simple example. Think about the last argument you saw or were part of. The person who escalated quickly, the one who fired back immediately, usually lost control. They said things they didn't mean. They looked emotional, not rational. They became predictable. But the person who responded slowly, they held the power. They kept the room. Their calm became an anchor. Because here's the truth that shapes this entire principle. Ask when you react fast, you lose control. When you react slowly, you take it back. And that's something we can practice today. Not next week, not after reading another book today. The next time someone tries to rush you, pause. The next time your phone vibrates with an annoying message, pause. The next time you feel your chest heat up and your jaw tighten, pause. Give yourself the space that most people never realize they have. Because in that space lives your power, your clarity, and your strength. And once you learn to slow down, you stop being a prisoner of triggers and you start becoming the master of your reactions. Detach from people's behavior, it's not about you. Let me ask you something important. How many times have you taken someone's tone, someone's silence, or someone's attitude personally only to later realize it had absolutely nothing to do with you? If you're honest, the answer is probably a lot. And that's okay, because most of us grow up believing that other behavior is somehow a reflection of our worth. If someone is cold, we think we did something wrong. If someone is rude, we feel attacked. If someone is distant, we assume we're being rejected. But here's the truth that can change your emotional life forever. Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. Their mood, their tone, their impatience, their distance, those are reflections of their inner world, not yours. Think about it. People respond based on their wounds, their stress, their fears, their insecurities, their exhaustion, their overwhelm. But because we're human, our mind immediately jumps to the conclusion that makes us feel most threatened. They disrespected me. They're judging me. They don't value me. They're upset with me. And this is where anger becomes heavy. Not because of the action itself, but because of the meaning we attach to it. Two people might receive the same cold comment. One person shrugs and says, "They must be having a rough day." The other person feels a stab in their chest and thinks, "Why are they treating me like that?" Two realities. And the only difference is interpretation. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people act according to their nature, and your job is to maintain your own. In other words, you are responsible for your character, not theirs. When someone shows up with rudeness, chaos, or emotional instability, that behavior is a mirror of their inner world. You don't have to pick it up and take it home with you. This is where the power of detachment begins. Now, when I say detachment, some people think it means becoming cold or distant. But real detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. It's the ability to observe behavior without letting it invade your peace. It sounds like, I see what you're doing, but I'm not going to let it define me. I hear your tone, but I'm not going to absorb your stress. I notice your reaction, but it's not a reflection of my value. Detachment protects your emotional energy, the same way a windshield protects you from rain. The storms can happen, people can behave badly, react poorly, miscommunicate, or project their insecurities, but you don't have to get soaked every time. Think about how many times people project their inner chaos outward. Someone who's anxious snaps. Someone who's insecure criticizes. Someone who's overwhelmed shuts down. Someone who feels unworthy becomes passive-aggressive. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to the battle inside themselves. Once you understand this, your entire emotional world changes. You become calmer not because people change, but because you stop taking their behavior personally. You become more confident not because you're perfect, but because you no longer let external attitudes determine your worth. You become emotionally independent not in a harsh way, but in a grounded, peaceful way. And here's something worth reflecting on: how many conflicts in your life were fueled by misinterpretation, by assumptions, by jumping to conclusions before understanding the full picture? What if you had paused and asked yourself, is this actually about me, or is this just about where they're at right now? Most of the time, the answer is obvious: it's not about you. And when you live with that clarity, anger loses its grip on you, insecurity loses its voice, and emotional reactions lose their power. You stop absorbing every tone as an insult. You stop seeing silence as rejection. You stop reading negativity as a statement about your value. You simply let people be who they are, and you remain who you choose to be. Because the Stoics believed in a simple but transformative principle: their behavior, their statement. Your response is yours. And your response becomes a reflection of your strength, your clarity, and your emotional maturity. So if you take one thing from this section, let it be this affirmation, a reminder you can carry into every interaction. Their behavior is not about me. This is mine. Live by that. And watch how much lighter your world becomes. Let me share a perspective that surprises most people the first time they hear it. Your anger doesn't mean you're a bad person, it simply means you were unprepared. That idea alone can change the way you see yourself. Because a lot of us carry labels like I'm hot-headed, I have a short fuse, or that's just how I am. But none of those are true. Anger isn't who you are, it's what you fall back on when you haven't prepared your mind for what life inevitably brings. And life will bring challenges. People will be rude. Situations will be inconvenient. Plans will fall apart. Someone will test your patience without even realizing it. What the Stoics understood, especially Marcus Aurelius, is that the key to staying calm isn't luck, personality, or genetics. Marcus began each day by reminding himself, "You will meet people who are difficult, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, jealous, and rude." He didn't say this to be cynical. He didn't wake up expecting the worst. He simply refused to be shocked by reality. Because shock is what fuels anger. Think about the last time you snapped at someone. Was it really because of what they did? Or because you didn't expect it? Was it really their behavior, or the gap between your expectations and reality? When we walk into the day imagining everything will go smoothly, we're setting ourselves up to be irritated. Every delay feels like an injustice. Every rude person feels like a personal attack. Every inconvenience feels like the universe is out to get us. But when you prepare your mind, when you accept that life is unpredictable, messy, and full of imperfect people, you stop taking everything so personally. Preparation removes the element of surprise. Preparation gives you emotional armor. Preparation turns frustration into understanding. Let's be honest, most people wake up completely reactive. They roll over, grab their phone, and within minutes their nervous system is already flooded with notifications, drama, news, comparison, and pressure. By the time they brush their teeth, their mind is already overwhelmed, and then they expect themselves to stay calm the rest of the day. How could they? An unprepared mind is like walking into battle without armor. Everything hurts. Everything gets in. Everything feels bigger than it is. But Stoics approached the day differently. They expected delays, expected misunderstandings, expected disrespect, expected people to behave according to their own wounds and weaknesses. And because they expected it, they were ready. Their peace didn't come from a perfect world, it came from a prepared mind. Let me ask you something personal. Do you know your triggers? Do you know the moments when you're most likely to snap or overreact? Maybe it's when you're tired. Maybe it's when you haven't eaten. Maybe it's when you're rushed, overwhelmed, or stretched thin. If you know this about yourself and still don't prepare for it, anger becomes almost inevitable. But when you anticipate those moments, you can diffuse them before they take over. Preparation isn't just about accepting what might go wrong. It's also about practicing resilience. Stoics had a method called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of difficulties. They mentally rehearsed challenges before they happened, not to suffer early, but to suffer less when they came. Modern psychology calls this stress inoculation, building emotional immunity by imagining difficulties ahead of time. Picture two people walking into the same day. One expects everything to be smooth. The other expects a mixture of ease and friction. They both face the same setbacks, but the first feels attacked. The second feels prepared. The same world, two completely different emotional experiences. That's the power of preparation. Prepared people aren't emotionless. They're simply harder to shake, because nothing catches them off guard. Nothing feels personal. Nothing feels like an attack on their worth. They become grounded, steady, centered while everyone else is thrown off balance. Maybe no one ever told you this, but anger doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means you haven't learned how to prepare your mind yet. And that's something you can change today. So here's the affirmation that captures this entire principle, a sentence worth repeating to yourself every morning: I prepare my mind, and nothing surprises me. Say it. Live it, and and watch your anger fade. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. There's a kind of power most people never tap into because it doesn't look like power at first glance. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It doesn't rush to defend itself. It doesn't fight to be heard. That power is silence, not the silence of defeat, not the silence of fear, but the silence of someone who is fully in control of themselves. Let me ask you this. How often do you feel the urge to explain yourself, defend your intentions, correct someone's misunderstanding, or clap back the moment someone provokes you? Most people do it instantly, because the world teaches us that the louder you are, the stronger you appear. But in reality, noise gives away power. When you argue, when you over-explain, when you rush to prove something, you're placing your emotional state in someone else's hands. You're reacting on their terms. You're letting their energy dictate your energy. And the Stoics knew this. They understood that silence, when chosen intentionally, is not emptiness. It is discipline. It is clarity. It is self-respect. Because when you stay silent in a heated moment, something remarkable happens. The other person is forced to confront themselves. Your silence acts like a mirror. They hear their own tone more clearly. They feel the weight of their own insecurity. They notice their imbalance because you're not matching it. And here's the part. Many people misunderstand most individuals who try to provoke you aren't looking for truth. They're looking for a reaction. They want to know if they can pull you out of your character. They want to see if they can control your emotions. They want to feel powerful by making you lose power. So imagine the impact when they try and fail. Imagine the effect of their harsh words, hanging in the air, unanswered. Imagine them realizing that their attempt to trigger you didn't work because you stayed centered. Silence removes their script. It leaves them with nothing to push against. And in many cases, it humbles them more than any argument ever could. Think about the last time you witnessed someone respond with calm silence. Didn't it feel powerful? Didn't it make the other person look smaller, louder, or more chaotic by comparison? That's the power of choosing to not engage. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. It creates space for you to think clearly, to separate your ego from the situation, to choose your next move from wisdom rather than emotion. In that pause, you can ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Is this conversation worth entering? Is this person even speaking from a place of clarity? Or would my silence say more than my words ever could? When you stop responding instantly, you start responding intelligently. And people can feel the shift. When you use silence wisely, you send a message without saying a word. I don't argue unnecessarily. I don't react on command. I don't give away my peace. It tells the world that you know your value, and you won't lower your energy to match someone else's chaos. Let me share something personal. Every emotionally strong person I've ever met had one trait in common: they were selective with their words. They didn't waste breath on arguments that didn't matter. They didn't defend themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them. They didn't explain themselves repeatedly to people who weren't listening. Their silence wasn't avoidance. It was mastery. And in your own life, you've probably experienced moments when silence served you better than any comeback. Maybe it saved an argument from escalating. Maybe it preserved a relationship. Maybe it kept you from saying something you'd regret. Sometimes silence isn't just the strongest response, it's the wisest one. Because when you stay silent at the right moment, you're not avoiding the battle. You're choosing not to step onto the battlefield at all. You're protecting your peace, your dignity, and your emotional independence. So if there's one affirmation to carry with you from this principle, let it be this: my silence is my strength. And let your quiet confidence speak louder than any argument ever could. Let me tell you something that most people never realize about their own emotions. Every moment you feel triggered is a training moment. Whether you choose anger or discipline in that moment shapes who you become tomorrow. Think about it. Every disrespectful comment. Every moment where you feel that spark of irritation in your chest, all of it is a fork in the road. One path leads to anger, the other leads to discipline. And whichever one you choose over and over again becomes your default. Most people say, "That's just how I am," or "I've always had a temper," as if anger is something carved into their DNA. But anger isn't who you are. Anger is simply what you've been practicing. If you've spent years snapping back, raising your voice, firing off reactive messages, or letting emotions run the show, of course, anger feels natural. You've rehearsed it. You've reinforced it. You've strengthened it like a muscle. But here's the empowering part. Emotional reflexes are trainable. Just like you learned anger, you can unlearn it. Just like anger became a habit, calmness can become one too. And it all happens in the smallest moments most people overlook. When someone interrupts you, that's training. When someone argues aggressively, that's training. When someone cuts you off, that's training. When you feel the urge to respond with irritation, that's training. In every one of those moments, you're either, let me give you an example we've all experienced, you're talking to someone and they cut you off mid-sentence. Your mind immediately crafts the perfect comeback. Your ego jumps forward ready to defend itself. You feel your face warm up, your breath shorten. In that split second, you're standing at the fork in the road. If you give in, even once, you reinforce the habit of impulsiveness. But if you pause just a breath, you reinforce the habit of control. Calmness isn't built in peaceful moments. Calmness is built in friction. Calmness comes from choosing your response when everything inside you wants to explode. That's why people who appear naturally calm aren't necessarily born that way, they train themselves that way.
You call it
moment by moment,
responsible.
choice by choice. And here's the beautiful paradox: the more you train discipline, the less anger you feel. Not because the world stops being irritating, not because people suddenly become more respectful, but because you stop being so easy to disturb. Your nervous system becomes stronger. Your emotional threshold rises. Your breath deepens instead of tightening. Your mind steadies instead of spiraling. You become someone who isn't pulled into chaos, someone who doesn't get swept into emotional storms, someone who others look at and think, how do they stay so centered? And the answer is, they train for it. If you've ever met someone who stays calm under pressure, who doesn't escalate, who doesn't get dragged into fights, who speaks slowly and intentionally even when the moment is tense, that didn't happen by accident. It came from hundreds, even thousands of small decisions. Anger wants the last word. Discipline wants the right word. Anger wants to win the moment. Discipline wants to win the day. Anger is loud. Discipline is quiet but powerful. So ask yourself right now, who are you training yourself to become? The truth is, every reaction teaches your mind something. Every response is a repetition. Your brain is always learning from your behavior. When you choose anger, your brain says, let's make this easier next time. When you choose discipline, your brain says, let's make this the new default. And that is how emotional transformation happens, not in big dramatic moments, but in the ordinary, everyday ones. The next time you feel triggered, try this pause. Step back mentally. Feel the urge to react and let it pass like a wave. Choose the long-term version of yourself over the short-term release of emotion. You'll be amazed at how powerful that feels. And here is the affirmation that captures the essence of this entire principle, one worth repeating every single day: I choose discipline over anger every single time. Say it with intention. Say it with belief. Say it until it becomes your truth. Because the moment you start choosing discipline, you stop training your anger, and you start training the strongest, calmest, most grounded version of yourself. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, I want you to take a moment and really reflect on what you've just heard. Because these 6 Stoic truths aren't just philosophical ideas. They're not abstract concepts meant to sit on a shelf or sound nice in a book. They are practical tools, simple, powerful, and life-changing if you choose to use them. Let's bring them all together. The first truth reminded you that anger is created by interpretation. Not by what people do, but by the meaning your mind attaches to what people do. That realization alone can free you from years of unnecessary emotional pain. The second truth showed you that speed steals control. When you react fast, you give away your power. But when you pause just for a breath, you reclaim the authority over your inner world. The third truth taught you that other people's behavior reflects them, not you. Their tone, their mood, their attitude, those are expressions of their inner battles, not your worth. And when you stop taking everything personally, life becomes much lighter. Then came the fourth truth: preparation protects peace. A prepared mind is a calm mind. When you expect delays, imperfections, and human flaws, you no longer feel personally attacked by them. Preparation is the emotional armor that keeps you steady in a chaotic world. The fifth truth highlighted something surprisingly powerful: silence. The kind of silence that doesn't come from fear, but from strength. The silence that allows you to hold your dignity, your clarity, and your composure while others lose theirs. And finally, the sixth truth reminded you that your reactions shape who you become. Every moment you feel triggered is a moment of training. You are either strengthening your anger or strengthening your discipline. The choice you make again and again creates the future version of you. Think about that for a second. If you truly applied just one of these truths today, how different would your interactions feel? How different would your inner world feel?
How different would you feel?
Because emotional mastery doesn't come from trying to control the world. It comes from learning how to control yourself within the world. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They didn't say that people would suddenly become kinder, that circumstances would become smoother, or that challenges would magically disappear. What they promised was something far more valuable: the ability to stay grounded, no matter what the world throws at you. And that is what these 6 truths offer you. But now comes the real test. Knowing these truths means nothing if you don't use them. They are only as powerful as your willingness to apply them in the real world. So here is my challenge to you starting today. When something provokes you, pause. When someone tries to pull you into their chaos, breathe. When your old patterns want to take over, choose the response that aligns with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. Every moment gives you a chance to practice. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Every trigger is a teacher in disguise. And remember this: you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware. Because awareness is the first step toward mastery. Before we close, I want you to take one quiet second and ask yourself a simple question. Which Stoic truth will I practice first? Will it be slowing down? Will it be reframing your interpretation? Will it be using silence? Will it be preparing your mind each morning? Will it be choosing discipline over anger? Or maybe it will be reminding yourself that other people's behavior is never a reflection of you. Whichever one you choose, write it down. Say it out loud. Commit to practicing it today, even just once. Because emotional mastery isn't built in a day. It's built moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. And if this message gave you clarity, comfort, or strength, pass it on. Share it with someone you care about, someone who might need this reminder just as much as you did. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until our next video, stay grounded, stay disciplined, and stay unshaken. You've got this.